Hello everybody, it's NoodleDog. We're doing another artist block today. And today we're going to be doing something that was requested of me. We're going to be talking about faces. Hold on, let me get it up there. Faces. Faces are pretty easy, especially when it comes to understanding the anatomy of a face. The only problem with faces sometimes is just how to start, the expression behind them, and when you break down a face into its core components, it's the driving force of the body usually. Besides the body itself, the face usually has the most expression behind it, and you can use it to convey a lot of feeling and emotion. All of the different components of the face, from the eyes to the eyebrows to the nose to the mouth, they all give some form of character to the person, and you want to make sure that you accentuate a person's character through their looks. And the best way to do that is through the face. So let's go ahead and let's start basically. When I think of a face, a lot of times I still want to get references. So I'm not working with a reference right now. I'm going to go based off of what I have, which is basically myself, my thoughts. But the face is pretty basic. To me, you should always start off with at least a circle, because the skull, the cranium, the cranial part of the skull usually is a circle. So let's go ahead and sketch a circle, okay? Bear with me. Bear with me, because today my body is in pain. I just made some fresh butter and my arms are cramping because I used the jar method. But that's besides the point. Let's clean up our circle just a little bit. Let's make sure that it's got just enough, pizzazz to it. And then we're going to put our guidelines in. Our guidelines are going to be, of course, how we put the face with the whole part of the body. Now, from here, we have the basic structure of a head. You can stick with this, but if you want to do a more realistic head, you can do something along the lines of adding an extra shape to the other side and give the illusion of the chin and everything like that. And this makes it a little bit easier for you to work with. And you could do all kinds of shapes. It could be squares, it can be triangles, it could be cones, it could be whatever you want. The face is a very expressive thing, and from the biggest, stockiest guys with the squarest jaws on planet Earth to the more soft and subtle, rounded faces that you can come up with. Everybody's got different facial structure, and depending on where you're from, depending on what you look like, it'll give you the character that you usually have. People recognize you by your face, so a lot of times it's a good idea to go ahead and work on faces. So, I'm trying to see something, make sure. Okay, cool. I'm gonna lower my pen size down, and I'm going to go ahead and work with this. So, here we have the start of a face, right? And I like to add the neck because I like to know where I'm going with the person, because I like knowing how thick the neck is, because it gives me some idea of a character, okay? So, let's go ahead and push this up a little bit. Let's move this to the center of the screen. Right there. Okay, so from here we have a couple options we could do, but usually when I think of a head, I often think of the quarters rule or the splitting of the skull. So when it comes to the head, usually you can draw out a little line and you can kind of gauge where everything is on the face based on proximity, okay? So usually when I think of the head, I think of the guidelines being in the middle of the circle, and that's where we are here. From here we have our eyes, so we can draw the eyes in, just basic, something real simple, nothing crazy, but we can definitely draw the eyes and we can get a general feel of where they are. So let's go ahead and put the eyes in. Now from here we have some other options too. As you can see, we have it split down the middle kind of evenly. I'm going to move these just a little bit so the eyes feel a little bit more in the center, kind of like that. Don't mind the weirdness, but I can remove some of these lines now. Next in our list of things to do is we can split it evenly in the middle, and we can split the face into more sections. So we do it in quarters. So the first top quarter is where the top of the eyes are. The middle section of the face, kind of around here, this is where you kind of could expect your nose to be. So you could put a little circle right around there. And now we have some quarters. Somewhere in this quadrant here, we could put a little thing right here. This can be the middle of your lips. And then we can split it a little bit more. We can even put it right here, and right here being the bottom and the top of the lips. And there you go, you've got yourself your own little character. Let's go ahead using the guidelines we have today, and let's go ahead and make ourselves a character. So I'm just going to make a really simple character. I'm going to erase some of these guidelines actually because I kind of don't like them. But this is a good rule of thumb, especially if you're using different layers like I don't. Followed by my speech and not followed by what I say and not what I do. Okay. Let's put it right around here, and we could easily put in some lips to counteract it, and then we could put some ears. Now the ears are a little bit under the eyes, somewhere around this area is where the ears usually are, and we can get ourselves some little ears. Give my boy some ears. They can be a little bit up actually. Usually the ears and the eyes aren't exactly level with each other, so you can actually take them and move them just a little bit. That looks a little bit more reasonable. Because the ears and the eyes usually, the ear canal is not in level with the eyes usually. They actually have like a little bit of a disparity. So you want to keep that in mind when you're working with the ears. And we can even flesh out the ears a little bit just by doing something like that. Making sure that it's nice and flush. We're just trying to do something simple so we can understand what we're going with. And then we can give ourselves some hair. And usually when I think of characters, it's just, whatever comes up. It doesn't have to be anything special, but it could just be anything that you're working with as far as your things are concerned. And presto changeo, you've got a character and you've got a face. And we could just give them some eyebrows. So, voila, we already have a character. And we've just followed the guidelines that we've set for ourselves. As you could see, everything in this character is in line with something similar to realistic facial proportions. We have the eyes, and we have the nose, and we have the face. And the mouth everywhere where we want it to be. So, and we all split it up into different things. Now, depending on how realistic you want to go, you can go as realistic as you like. You can go as simple as you like, as abstracted as you like. This is just a general rule of thumb for how to design a face, and we can go at it again. I'm gonna just give it a little bit of a quickie. I'm just gonna give it a quick second. Let me go ahead and run it in real quick. I'm just going to, don't mind me, I'm just going to give it a quick little review. Like I said, you can always just do it like this, and even if it's kind of ugly, you could still do wonders with just following simple instructions. And see, even if it's not the greatest thing on the planet, the proportions will eventually come in a line where it's just you working on things and you don't have to worry about, what it looks like. Alright, so we got the basic setup of the face. We have the original circle, right? We have the original circle of the face. We have the lower jaw structure here. And then we have the guidelines, which will show us where everything is. We have the eyes set into place. Somewhere in the middle between there, we have the nose. So we're going to go ahead and put that in there. We have the eyebrows. We have somewhere in the third halfway between the nose and the chin, the bottom of the chin, we have a nice big old smile. Or the mouth. It could be just expanding of the mouth. It doesn't have to be a smile every single time. But we have ourselves a decent combatant. I'm calling him a combatant. He's not even a combatant. He's just a dude. I don't understand why I said that. Whatever. Anyway, we have ourselves a basic character. And when it comes to this is usually the general rule of thumb as far as, creating a face. And you can get as detailed as you want. You want to get more detailed? Get more detailed. If you want to get less detailed, make it stylized. You can do literally whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. As long as you understand these basic ways of how to actually make things work, you can come up with a pretty interesting character just based on the overall look of the face. So we got some basics here, but what about something a little bit more, I don't know, let's give it a little bit more wild. Let's make something a little bit more, intriguing. Let's go ahead and let's make a bigger guy. Let's make a character with a bigger face. So they do the same thing, but this time, instead of a narrow chin, we're gonna go ahead and give him a blocky chin. And don't worry, I'm gonna get to other places in a second. We're gonna go to other angles, but let's just continue with this one. This one's a little bit easy. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna fill it up the rest of the way like I always do. And this time, I was actually practicing this earlier today. We can set the neck to fit the person. As you can see, this is a big dude. He's handsome. He's handsome, right? Super big, buff dude. Oh, Christ. Let's bring that down a little bit. There we go. That's a little better. I'm going to go ahead and put him down and like this. And we can see that this is a big guy. It's muscular, he's strong. And we can give him some personality traits to fit him. Like, for instance, let's give him a big old nose. Give him a big old nose. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give him a super nose. And I'm going to just accent that nose. And there we go. We got himself a big nose. Let's make his mouth a little bit, let's push his nose up just a bit. And what we'll do from here, there we go, let's get rid of some of these guidelines, because they kind of mess you up once you get points like that. This is the best part about doing digital art. If you're doing traditional art, don't be afraid to erase and start over. That's perfectly fine. I did a lot better, to be honest, with traditional art today, but it's okay. So we got ourselves a little bit of a nose and everything, so we got an idea of what this guy looks like. Let's go ahead and give him a, let's give him really stern looks. So let's give him, one of these. Let's give him one of those. Let's give him some forehead wrinkles just to show that he means business, right? And what you could do even, you could take a guideline like this, and you can make the person, you could even make the person way more intriguing, right? Just by making him like this. So now we're gonna take him, we're gonna make it really interesting. We're gonna give him some nice mean looking eyes. We can just even simply make it like that, right? We're just making some weird shapes, and we can just give him some really serious looking eyes, and just give him just a fragment of some eyebrows to give him like a more serious look. We want him to be real angry looking, real gnarly, real grotesque. And we can add it further by adding depth to the face by doing a little bit of hatching. You want to make it to where he's like really menacing looking, right? And let's just say, for all intents and purposes, we're gonna go with somebody like this, some guy who's really mean. And maybe he's not actually mean, maybe he's just, I don't know, maybe he's just a mean looking character. And there you go. Just by changing the facial structure and the way things look, you can make something look very different and very unique just by playing with the facial structure. Now, we've done this. Now, let's move on to the side view. Oh, goodness. Because the back view isn't super interesting, but we could still do that. But let's move on to the side view. Now, the side view is a little bit different. Of course, you have your standard circle. Let's go ahead and focus on that. I'm going to do one real quick. Oh, I'm still on an eraser. Let's go ahead and do that. We have ourselves a simple circle. And from here, we can plot out the face. Now, normally you can get a profile of a person. You can do something like that, and then you can add. Now, the structure of a face all depends on what angle, So, let's just say, for instance, that this is what we're looking at. The silhouette of a person always follows similar structures depending on how you go, right? You have the general curve of the forehead, right? And then it comes in sharp to make the eyes, the socket for the eyes. The eyes sink in, and the eyes will pop out again to make the actual eye, right? This will be the eye. From there, after it comes in, it'll come back out to form either the cheeks or the nose, depending on how extreme the portrait, the silhouette of the person is. And then it curves out and then back out again to form the lips, and it'll come back out and like that. So let's try it in practice. It'll start with a gentle slope. It'll curve in and then curve back out. Curve back down just a bit. Like this. And you could make the cheeks from there. And then from there, I'm doing this because I'm trying to slowly grab it in. So you can always just like add face. But from there, it gives it the nose, so bring out the nose, and then immediately you curve it back out to make the first lip bring it back in, bring it in, bring it out and in back a second time, and then you can make the chin just by doing a slight little curve like that. So this is a really stylized human being, but oh my goodness, this looks weird. But once again, curving in, swooping back out, bringing it in a little bit, and bringing the nose, swooping back in, immediately coming back out for the lips, back down, back out, and back in again, and then gently sloping to create the face. Now, this is just a very simple silhouette, but this is pretty effective because the jawline and everything can be seen, and you could also work on this to create a slightly weaker chin or stronger chin, depending on how you want to draw or whatever. So I can do this to make it a little bit more intriguing, and that could be a slightly less defined face or what have you, or this can be a person doing whatever, like turning their head maybe to see something different. You can always just play around to make it more interesting. Just keep in mind the general rule of thumb is that the head is not the whole circle this time. Instead, think of it as there's a circle here, and then you want to kind of just attach the circle to I'm trying to think of a right way to describe it. The jawline is a little bit different, so it's kind of like this. If you draw it just kind of like that, and then you fill in the rest of the gaps, you'll understand that, you know, the brain, the cranium, what sticks out, that's where the brain is. That's not the whole head. Because a lot of times people will draw heads like this, and they'll draw it, and it's all like this. And the head can be like that, but keep in mind that the jawbone ends, I want to say about 3/4, like a third of the way, something like this. So if you were to draw the jawbone, the face would be like that. Here comes the nose, and then here would be your jaws and everything. So it would kind of look, let me push this over just a bit. It would look something like this if you were to draw it out. So keep in mind that the jawbone separates everything. That when you're drawing it, you draw the circle first, like this, and then you can immediately just set it down like that and bring it back, and you have a fully functioning head. Well, at least more along the lines of that, but you know, just like that. Alright, so we got a whole bunch of faces here. As you can see, there's a whole lot of different degrees of head that can go with it, and you can do all kinds of things. And the back of the head is also another shot we could take. But the back of the head is pretty simple. The back of the head is literally just this. Depending on how you're working with the character, if they're muscular or whatever, the neck usually is somewhere along this line like this, where the spine begins to work. And you can slowly add in the rest of the detail, kind of like this. And that's what the back of the head looks like. Usually, you don't see too much of the front of the head, unless somebody's got a really angular jaw. Then you would see their head. But for the most part, you don't really see too much of it. You just kind of see this, you know. That's really all you'd see. So that would be the head. The head is a really complex structure as far as making things. You can do the head in different terms and techniques, and you can also apply the head techniques to different types of things and different types of heads, mind you, because the head is usually the basis. Usually got a cranium system, a skull of some kind, circular structures or oblong structures, and they usually end in similar structures with jaws and stuff like that. One example that I'm going to extend to is going to be the muzzle of an animal. Muzzle of an animal is pretty easy to work with too. I find that a lot of times that muzzles, because I work with anthropomorphic animals, I find that the muzzle is actually pretty easy to draw for me. When I draw a muzzle, oftentimes I start out with just the usual circle, right? This is a front view, and then I draw my guidelines to show what I'm working on. Now, the difference between, you know, a human face and an animal face is oftentimes animal faces are more pronounced. They're more elongated going towards the viewer. And when you're working on things like that, oftentimes longer things tend to you have to find a way to foreshorten them. And when I foreshorten my animal muzzles and stuff like that, I often just tend to draw them in points, because when something comes towards you, you don't see it as much. So you have to find a way to foreshorten it. And a good way to do that is to just make the features more elongated so they can't actually see them. So here we go. Here's my little thingy. I'm going to just rotate just a bit so it fits a little bit more. There we go. From there, I can do a little bit more with it, because this is a canine. This is going to be a canine face. And instead of working on the the nose like you normally would, you have to find where the nose is. Normally the human nose would be somewhere around here, because it's not as foreshortened. There's not as much to guess about as far as the length between the distance of the nose and whatever. Because it's an elongated muzzle and it's coming more towards you, it's going to be more focused slightly down, so it's going to be somewhere around this area, usually where the muzzle protrudes the nose. So you would draw the nose somewhere around this area, because there isn't a whole lot there as far as the foreshortening. You could bring it up just a tad bit like that, and then you can keep it here and use like foreshortening techniques, like maybe doing something like this to kind of give it a sense of depth. From here, you can do a couple of things. I simply just like to put a little bit of a little face right here, right? And that could be your face, but if you're a little bit more detailed, if you want to get a little bit more like, if you want to do a little bit more, what's the right word for it? A little bit more, I guess more accurate. You could actually put the muzzle kind of like this. Well, not like that, maybe more along the lines of this, because the muzzle tends to curve in. Well, the lips of an animal tend to curve in like that, and you can draw them that way. And then from there, the eyes would be closer to up here somewhere. And let's go ahead and put the eyes in of a doggy. Well, maybe not dog eyes, just whatever eyes you got here. And gonna go ahead and put that in there. And then let's just finish it off by putting some eyebrows for a dog. And let's put some ears. Ears are on the top of the head, more the top sides of the head, and you could do whatever kind of ears you like. If you like big ears, floppy ears, whatever you like, you could do that. But usually, this is how I would draw a dog character or whatever. And then I would draw the neck, because I draw anthropomorphic characters, so I draw the neck, and then I draw the shoulders, and well, the trapezius muscles, and then the shoulders, and yada yada yada, and there we go. We have ourselves an anthro character. You could do that, and you can also fluff out the cheeks a little bit more to give them a little bit more, pizzazz. You can do all kinds of things to make these characters pop, because this has a little bit more variety than a human, I find. You could do cheek fur. You can do different types of piercings. You can do hair. You can do fur. You can do ear types. You can do whatever. These are all just the basics being expanded upon a little bit, and you can do all kinds of stuff with animals. Animals are great. And likewise with the this kind of animal. Oh goodness, I'm gonna bring that back. Let's shrink you down just a tad bit, if you don't mind. Let's transform him. Let's shrink you down just a little bit. Let's put you up here. Okay. Likewise, we can take this character and we can do a sideways silhouette of the character, just like this. And it's similar to our human face. The only difference is animals tend to have like more of a slope to their face. And then from there, you can add their muzzle. I tend to make a box like this, and then I drag it out kind of like that. I also tend to take the cheekbone and I turn it into fur, kind of, because this was kind of like what I do as far as animals. Animals usually have cheekbones similar to us, or jawbones similar to us. It's just that they're usually covered up with fur or something like that, and it tends to have a little bit more depth or a little bit more personality than the standard human jawbone, which may end up something along the lines of this. Usually you can put little points on it to kind of insinuate fur. You could do like that and give it some fur. Alright, and then from there you can just do the general things like that, the muzzle, the nose. In canines, you can do dip. Well, canines and most other animals with muzzles, you can do a little dip in the face to give them a little bit more depth. Especially, you can approximate where the mouth is. Kind of like how you would draw lips on a person. So you would draw it something along the lines of this. And then you could just draw the eyes where they'd normally be, like that. Draw the face, and you would be pretty much done. This is the kind of thing that you want to kind of keep in mind, because as far as skull structure, a lot of animals and creatures have similar looks and similar designs. And if you get the basis of human skull down, you can do an animal skull no problem. It's just adding a couple more blocks and a couple more things to make them look a little bit more realistic. Personally, I find that animal skulls can be a little bit more challenging, but if you draw them first, you might be able to master humans a little bit easier. But that's enough of my lecture for today. We talked about a lot today. If it wasn't clear, please let me know in the comments. I might be able to rectify a couple of things in the next video. Other than that, though, that's pretty much all I've got for today. If you liked the video, comment, subscribe, and like. Tell me what you think about this series. Tell me what you want to see more of. Tell me what you want to do more of, and I'll try to provide. That's it, everybody. I'll see you guys in another video. See ya.